What's going on YouTube? Hey, welcome back to the channel. We are in post-production, but right now this is just part of the intro. So this is me just stopping in. What we are talking about here is the question was brought up during the live stream. What do I put on my gear? What affixes am I putting on my gear? I have a specific way in which I like to build things. Um, this is basically going to allow you guys out there to stay alive in these higher level tiers of dungeons, also maneuver better, do more damage. So just these basic fundamentals are going to help you guys so much. So I know this question was asked once, and I know these questions are asked more. So I brought this to you, and let's get into this. Kind of go into like the priorities of like what you look for in gear. So Raven is a newer player, so she needs explanation a little bit. So let's do it. So necklace, let's start with neck. Necklace, I always like a movement speed. I like something that will give me attack, something that gives me a little bit of survivability, and then something miscellaneous, right? So whatever you want pretty much, but I always want speed. I always want some type of attack, maybe a defense on there. This one pretty much has all attack and run or in speed. Your rings, you pretty much you always want life most of the times, but you're gonna want attack on there, and you can have survivability, but I like just mainly attack on my rings and some survivability, very little survivability, but mainly attack. And then my offhands, it's usually a miscellaneous one. It's kind of similar to your amulet, except for you can't get movement speed. So for movement speed, you either get cooldown reduction, or you get like essence, fury, or spirit reduction. But then you also want attack on there, and you want damage reduction on there, so you want some survivability as well. Your main hand, so you're attacking like weapon, and this is very similar as well. If you have a two-handed one, that's all attack. You want all attack on there. And remember, when you're doing attack, there's different damage buckets. So you're gonna want like damage to something. What, like damage, just straight up damage is the best because it damages everything, and it doesn't have to be under certain circumstances. That's the best one. So I have like damage to slow enemies. Basically, when I attack people, it poisons them. So it poisons them, and then when they're poisoned, it slows them down. So I pretty much am always doing damage to slow. It's just one that was there. Your willpower, intelligence, or strength or dexterity, depending on. So Raven, for instance, is a rogue, so she wants dexterity. So that'll be your other damage bucket. And then critical strike damage is in there as well. That's its own bucket. Anything with critical strike on it, it's all in its own bucket. And I like critical strike damage because that affects all of them. I have critical strike damage with earth skills. It's not as desirable. So this was literally grabbed just specifically for the high damage per hit. So I haven't itemized all my gears to the T. And then you want vulnerable. Some classes can't get vulnerable, for instance, like necromancers typically don't get a lot of vulnerable. You're going to want something like magic damage or something like that. Or you can tack on maybe life, that's also an option. Boots, I always want speed. I want speed. I want some, it's kind of a miscellaneous one, but you want speed as much as you can. You get your speed as high as you can. You get some attack on there. So I typically like your willpower. I like armor. And then a little miscellaneous. Here I got a spirit cost reduction. Your legs or your pants is pretty much all damage reduction. Damage reduction and life is very similar. Life and damage reduction go hand in hand. And then you want armor as well. So I have 2 damage reductions, and these are not in their own buckets. They're all multiplying against each other. And then total armor, which jumps in right over here. And that just reduces physical damage taken from enemies by level, by your level. It changes based on the enemy's level. So it goes down as the enemy level goes up. You want as much damage reduction and survivability on that as you can. And sometimes you actually, your main affix. So for me, there's ones that when you use a potion, it gives you more. I think it gives you, excuse me, I can't remember right off the top of my head. It either gives you, I'll insert this later, but it either gives you more barrier or more life. And then when I'm using bulwark, the more life and the more barrier I have. And gloves, pretty much attack. So I got attack chance, because attack chance is not attack chance, I'm sorry, critical strike chance. And then I have attack speed, all stats. I wish that was not all stats. I wish that was willpower, but. And then I like shred is my core ability, so I'm using it all the time, so more damage into that. Chest is very similar to your pants. You want all damage reduction. This is not itemized because I have lightning damage. I don't want that at all. I want damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction while injured, damage reduction from close enemies or distant enemies, very similar. And I want armor, and I want, if I'm not getting something else, I'm getting life. So very similar to your pants. For my helm, I always want armor. I always want armor, and then I want HP, and I want some type of damage. So that's where my willpower is coming from. And then I have crowd control duration. Really don't need crowd control duration. Not a bad one, but some other. It's kind of a miscellaneous one as well, but you always want your armor. I like 3 pieces with armor, and some people will substitute and throw armor over here in the amulet, but I typically don't. I typically throw more damage on that, and then I always gonna make sure on my helm that I have some armor for that damage reduction. So that's kind of how I itemize my gear, really. A lot of things are up to interpretation. Everybody changes a little bit. Can you deviate from that plan? Absolutely. I would recommend, as long as you keep your survivability in, like, all survivability in your pants and chest, you're pretty good. And then make sure this is what I like on my boots. I always like something, so I get unstoppable a lot. I want something that's going to make me unstoppable, and it also allows me to run through enemies. There's another one that every time you crit, it gives you more run speed. I like this one. Just like I said, I'm unstoppable more often. So I'm like almost always unstoppable. And so I like this. This will give me my 22% while I'm unstoppable, and I'm running through enemies. It just makes my survivability a lot better. So that's kind of a necessity as well. So that's kind of just a caveat to, like, my boots being speed. I like it having a buff on my speed as well. So the boots are just like all speed. I'm a big speed guy. I love speed. So it's more speed the merrier. So hey, I guess it's all about speed, right? So anyways, guys, this is post-production, obviously. So thank you guys for staying tuned. If you guys haven't made it this far, make sure you guys like, make sure you guys comment, share this to a friend, share this to a new player as well. If you guys are in another clan and you guys see some new players, share it to these people, share it to Discord. Would definitely appreciate it, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.